Week 2 of the NFL season has arrived, and we are back on the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Greg. I'm here with my co-host Dave, and we're going to preview the entire Week 2 NFL slate, along with plenty more sports that you can bet this weekend. Dave, how you doing, my friend? How's your week been going since we talked on Tuesday?
Pretty great, Greg. Let's see. Since Tuesday, I forgot to put in all waiver claims in fantasy, so I was scrambling a bit this morning. But overall, football's back. It's a beautiful day. Hard to complain on this end.
I'm disappointed because I put in my waiver claims, and all of the guys we talked about on Tuesday's episode, I was outbid for. So I'm now scrambling for a tight end replacement because I could not get Juwan Johnson in time. Disgusting behavior. But here we are. We have a lot for you in store today. Like I said, we're going to go through all of our best bets that the model shows value in for NFL Week 2, starting with Thursday Night Football. We'll take you through an entire preview of that game, look through every possible way you could find an edge that our model has to offer. We've got a same-game parlay for you as well for Thursday Night Football that we will go in depth on. But first, I want to go right into futures because we spent much of Tuesday's episode this week telling you that our NFL futures model had not completed its update post the Week 1 games. Well, now it has, and we can take a look at it a little bit closer. So, Dave, I'll throw it right to you. Take us through what we're seeing from our futures change.
Sweet. Yeah, so I'll pull up our Super Bowl probabilities. I've cut the odds off here as some Bet Rivers odds were a little stale and hadn't made it through yet, so I didn't want any confusion there. But we're seeing some pretty cool stuff here, actually. This should come as no surprise, really, but the Ravens and Bills are now deadlocked at 13.3% as our favorites. That Week 1 slugfest pretty much set this up. We saw the Ravens drop about 2%, and the Bills climb a little over 1% for them to level out. And then you got the Eagles not very far behind them. So the three favorites, which already were pretty clear, are even more closely aligned here. So that's pretty cool to see. Some early action already affecting the output on the model. A little lower down, the Lions, sorry, Greg, dropped from 8.3% to 5.9%. The odds dropped from 1,400, rose from 1,400 to plus 2,000. That takes away most of that value alongside that probability drop, actually. It's about a fair price. I think it's about 1,900, 1,800 our model would make for fair for the Lions. So if you got them early, you got better value. Now you can get better odds, but I think you might want to wait and see what they do in Week 2 after the Week 1 disappointment spot. And, similarly, you see the Packers have now officially cracked this top tier. We expect to see them rising a bit more as they have in some of the other markets as well. Let's switch over to the AFC real quick here. I've got the odds here because these are all set. Probably the biggest thing here, the Chargers. They were just 2% to win the AFC before their Week 1 upset over the Chiefs. That's now 7.9%. Not quite a value. That would be about plus 1,150, plus 1,200 for fair odds. So if you're concerned about value, they're not really a play here. But at 10 to 1, that's some pretty good projections for a top 5 team. I'm reading. Yep, top 5 team in the AFC. I personally grabbed Justin Herbert to win MVP after he had that first down run, like sliding in and pointing at the camera. I was like, yeah, that's an MVP like clip right there. He was 2,200 and he went down to 1,400 after that game. So feeling pretty good about that after Week 1, especially with this bump in the model for the Chargers as well. Let's swap over to the NFC. Eagles, of course, the favorite here, just like they are the favorite NFC team in Super Bowl projections. 49ers is kind of an interesting one here because we've now had a development with both George Kittle and Brock Purdy, who's going to miss, I think, 2 to 5 weeks, they said, with a turf toe variant, which is a new one for me. Never heard that one before. So they've climbed a bit, but this may change pretty quickly now with the Purdy news. That'll take at least a day or two to see that effect. It may not even come into the model until after Week 2, to be honest. So the Niners, like we talked about them before on the first show, We got some pretty good preseason value at plus 2,000, but now that's kind of in limbo. Looking at the Packers, they've jumped the Lions, as we mentioned, but here in the NFC, you could see maybe even more of a discrepancy. Look at that odds difference. Our fair odds here are about plus 800. So, like we said earlier, the model's not a fan of this Packers team with the Micah Parsons addition, at least as far as buying them as this top contender. This very much can change depending on what happens tonight and over the next couple weeks. Let's just take a quick look at a couple divisions that have seen some pretty good movement. Unsurprisingly, the AFC West. Chiefs are 0-1. Technically get the edge from our model, 1.5% higher than the Chargers to win the division. But as you can see, they have the exact same odds. Chargers are certainly worth a look in this. We talked about them in our season bold predictions about the Chargers knocking off the Chiefs or the Broncos finally winning the AFC West. The Broncos are at 21.5%, 13% probability behind the Chargers and Chiefs. But that 1-0 record over the Chiefs, 0-1, who now get a tough test with the Eagles, certainly puts them in a better position. And one other big one I want to look at is in the NFC North. We're talking this to death maybe a little bit, but the Packers here have climbed over 20%, I think. No, it was 30.6%. We had them before week 1. So a very significant climb here. And the Vikings not too far behind the Lions at 20.9%, with actually shorter odds than the Lions at plus 425 to win this division. That does mean there's value there with 27.7% probability for Detroit from the model. But like we said, what happens in week 2 is probably going to define the next several months for the Lions and what their upside really looks like here. Yeah. So some pretty good stuff in the division futures, AFC futures, Super Bowl futures, lots of movement. We're going to be highlighting these all season long. So anytime there's a big drop or a big jump, we'll talk about it on here. I'm tracking all these futures in a spreadsheet, which I'll probably share after we get a few weeks in and we can really look at some notable movement. But we'll have every futures angle for you coming up.
And post week 1 is a pretty decent time to bet some futures too. At least historically, it has been for me in pretty much all the 4 major American sports because, you're not going off of preseason predictions and takes anymore. You've at least seen 1 week's worth of the eye test to know how these teams want to deploy certain players on their teams. And to your point, I think, there are some things that happen in week 1 that are likely to completely flip in week 2, or we could also conversely see teams that looked horrible in week 1 now solidify, okay, they're dead in week 2. So it's an opportunity. If you think there is some value, if you think there's a team you could short maybe that failed in week 1 that's going to have a nice bounce back, this is not the worst time to jump in. I honestly am surprised with my Lions. Maybe this is just my heartstrings talking, but to see the Vikings with shorter odds to win the division than the Detroit Lions after 1 week, I mean, think about what we would have felt midway through the 3rd quarter when the Vikings had no momentum, just threw a pick six to the Bears. And now all of a sudden they're ahead of the Lions in terms of value. It's interesting that the model still technically shows the Lions with a significantly higher probability of winning the division. And the sportsbooks may be overreacting to that crazy 4th quarter comeback from JJ McCarthy. So anyways, thank you, Dave. Appreciate you taking us through that to a further look. We're going to do this all season long. So if you're wondering how the model updates week to week, we will certainly have the answer for you on the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast throughout all of NFL season. And reminder, if you are trying to bet some futures and you want to get these updates in real time without waiting for the podcast, join Dimers Pro. That's the only way that you can get all of our futures updates in real time all season long. All right, tonight, Thursday night football. Man, it's good to be back, but it's good to be back to back with good games on Thursday night football. We were treated to a fun one last week. I think Commanders-Packers is going to be a pretty great game to watch as well tonight. It's Washington plus 3.5, our total at 48.5. So I believe we want to screen share here and take you through some of our model's Thursday night football game preview elements here. I'll throw it to you, Dave.
Yep, cool. So we are going to pull up our full NFL game prediction for Commanders versus Packers. You can find one of these on dimers.com for every single NFL game. If you're a true sicko, you can find these already up for every game for the season, since those lines are set well in advance due to the nature of the NFL. So, if you want to go find some week 12 predictions, have at it. You can dig in. We got it all there. But these apply for every sport. We have very in-depth previews. The data points vary from sport to sport, of course, with NFL by far being our most comprehensive. So I'll scroll through this preview and we'll talk about a couple of notable angles in this game, as well as just kind of showing you guys what our NFL game previews look like on the site. So you'll find right at the top our projected score. This is just going to be an average output, so you might not always land on one that makes a ton of sense from an NFL scoring perspective. Really, you're going to want to use that, if anything, as an additional data point when looking at a really close spread, which we talked about on Tuesday. If we have a spread that's at like 50% and the model really doesn't have a lean either way, take a look at the projected score. For example, this is a 3.5-point spread. It can't end on 3.5. So you're either going to get 26-23 or 26-22 for a 50-50 shot from the model. So this gives you just a little bit more insight on where those average outputs are landing in the numerous simulations every game has from the model. So you scroll down here, you can see your spread probability. Looks like you can actually get Packers -3 on BetMGM instead of the consensus 3.5. So if you do think they cover, that's probably where you want to be. Buy yourself that little push out. And you can click here through our spread, through our over-under, which you see we have a pretty good lean on, and the money line. You won't find any value listed in this section, but you will see our very distinct probabilities in each of the three main game lines. So I'm going to scroll down a bit here. We got touchdowns, but we're going to go past this a little bit and talk about the Commanders' rushing outlook. This is a really interesting backfield comparison to talk about. Jakrosky Merritt, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Sorry, we should just call him Bill.
Call him Bill.
That's probably why he goes by Bill, is because that name is a mouthful. But guy goes from RB4 on the depth chart to leading the backfield in week 1. Him being RB4 on the depth chart was a head scratcher. He looked great in preseason, lots of good stuff coming out of camp. And then he's behind Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols, which just didn't make a ton of sense. And the week 1 game plan showed that was pretty much just nonsense. Smoke and mirrors, coach speak from preseason, not trying to give it all away. He outcarried everyone but Jaden Daniels. He outrushed everyone with 82 yards, picked up a score, broke a huge 42-yard run. And compared to Eckler, who got just 6 totes along with his receiving work, he was clearly the RB1. And when you look in our rushing projections right here, that is immediately reflected. We have a little bit higher of a touchdown probability for Austin Eckler. Looks like our probability for Merritt went down a little bit, about 2-3% over the last 24 hours, but that's okay. 44 projected yards for Krosky Merritt for Bill. And if you go down here receiving, you could see if he's got anything, but he doesn't. I don't think he drew a single target in week 1, so you're not likely to see anything there. Austin Eckler is questionable tonight as of this recording. That certainly would have some impact here. Granted, he gets most of the receiving work, so you're probably more likely to see that get split amongst Deebo Samuel, Rodriguez, McNichols, and some committee style of backfield targets. But Eckler should not be much of a threat to Bill's rushing output. And that looks pretty clear here, projected almost 20 yards below Bill. So, yeah, any thoughts on the backfield for Washington, Greg?
It's a weird spot for me because I think the sharp better, not that I'm necessarily the world's sharpest, but I think the sharp betting mindset here would say this is a good spot to maybe fade Krosky Merritt in a back to earth type moment, because the public loves the story, right? He's a breakout guy. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
fantasy team has him. And I think a big part of his big week one, despite having such a big role, was that he broke that 42-yard run, right? Like, how often is he going to break a 40-plus yard run in a game? If he doesn't, he runs for 40 yards instead of 82 yards last week. So, look, it's easy to play the if game with it. Eckler's injury looms for me because if Eckler was full go, I think I would just lock in some Krosky Merritt unders and play that. But I mean, if for whatever reason Eckler is out this game, it doesn't sound like a serious injury, they're going to completely unleash him. So it might be a watch for me and just see if we can learn something, even if we miss the window to potentially find some value here. I will say it's very noteworthy to me looking through the best props for this game from the Dimers model. There's a lot of Austin Eckler action in various forms. I mean, under 23 and a half rushing yards shows value, under 23 and a half receiving yards shows value. At the same time, Austin Eckler's over rushing attempts shows value, and Austin Eckler to score a touchdown shows value. So it almost feels like, we don't know what Eckler's role is going to be. Is he only going to get 3 carries, but one of them is going to be around the goal line? Is he healthy? I think for me, in summary, this is a watch and learn, stay away spot.
Yeah, I think that's some pretty good analysis there. Eckler's had the injury bug before, so this may pop up again throughout the season. And then if that comes, we'll have a pretty good idea of how they'll deploy Bill and the rest of the backfield in that situation. All right. Also, probably worth noting that the Packers pulled out the clamps for the run game against the Lions. It's a little different here with Jaden Daniels having the dual threat ability compared to Jared Goff, who's a bit more statuesque. But yeah, definitely worth considering if you're looking at yards in this one. And granted, we only project Bill for 44. It's not a huge smash spot. All right. Let's go take a look at the receiving projections here, because there's another good story here with Terry McLaurin. Super quiet week one. Hold out in camp. Did get his deal. Came back after that. Were they easing him in? Was he unprepared? Was it a matter of they were playing the Giants and didn't really have to do a whole lot? I don't know. But I'm a little concerned about the slow start. He only had 2 targets, which is what bothers me more than anything. If it was just a matter of him not being up to speed, I think he would have seen that in the snaps, but he played, I think he led receivers in snaps. Debo had 10 targets, and that was his first game with the Commanders. He only had 1 rush, but that's a guy who factors in multiple facets of the game and had a significantly larger impact than Terry McLaurin, who just got his big deal. So, Austin Eckler had more targets out of the backfield than Terry McLaurin did in this game. So it's a little concerning for me. You look at our projection here, he's only 2 yards ahead of Debo. Exact same touchdown probability. These ghost games aren't unheard of for McLaurin. He only had 3 games with double-digit targets last year. So while he's got immense upside, he's not like the Jamar Chase, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, even the A.J. Brown that we like to think. I think that he is in that tier. So if you drafted him, I'd probably adjust my expectations that he's probably going to settle in a little bit more as a borderline wide receiver 2-3 for these first few weeks. That's not a knock on Terry McLaurin, just an observation based on what we saw yesterday or in week one and going forward, looking at this box score in particular. Yeah, Greg, what are you thinking about the Commanders wide receivers?
I mean, I'll just give you my eye test. I thought Debo looked out of shape, which has been true for a while, and he was still heavily involved in the offense. So to me, like, I wasn't overly impressed. It's not like rookie year breakout Debo Samuel showed up to Washington and is a true threat right now. Terry McLaurin's just like out of the picture to start the season. And that probably tracks with the way his summer went, where it wasn't even sure if he was ever going to show up with this team. So yeah, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here with the wait and see approach, but to me, if there was a skill position reception room guy that I'm looking at, it would probably be Debo. I think it's nothing that he looked like the centerpiece of the offense from that regard in week one. despite looking like he needed a week or two to get his legs underneath him. And the point you made is good, though. Terry McLaurin has done this before, right? Even without of the context, he's a guy that has felt very boom or bust throughout his career. Either he has a 2-touchdown, 100-yard game, or he has one catch for 9 yards and nothing. So I won't be stunned if he bounces back, but my gut says that Deebo Samuel is probably the guy to invest in here.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more there, Greg. Yeah, he looked a little out of shape, but he still took a 20-yard rush end around, sneaking through guys up the sideline and scored. So,
yep.
And I just don't think the 10 targets for a guy who was playing his first game with Jaden Daniels compared to Terry McLaurin, who was thriving with this guy. The number one reason probably Jaden McDaniels was so good last year. 10 targets to 2 targets, or I think he had 4 targets. Just bothers me. So let's swap sides here. Go check out the Packers receiving core. This is a really crowded receiver room. No one drew more than 5 targets in week 1. Jaden Reed brought in 3. 4 receivers tied for 2 catches. I think Jordan Love spread the ball around to 10 different receivers, running backs, tight ends. So there's he only passed 22 times. So there's maybe not a lot of volume in this Packers wide receiver offense. I mean, Josh Jacobs is going to be a workhorse until he can't. The good thing I would say about this is Romeo Doubs once again delivered on minimal volume with high output, 68 catches for 2 yards. He's the big play guy. He does lead the projections here, though he has the 3rd highest touchdown probability. So maybe a little boom or bust action there with Doubs as well. 48 projected yards. Jaden Reed, 44, Tucker Kraft, 42, and rookie Matthew Golden, 39. Golden didn't really do much in week 1. I think a lot of people are probably curious to see if he makes an appearance in this game. I might take a look at that touchdown value. He's 21%. So if you can get him at plus 400, that's a pretty good spot. I'm going to doubt he's available around there. If he was, we'd probably be seeing him on the Dimers Pro Best Props. But he might catch my attention when I dig into some stuff in this game a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the Packers receiver room. I haven't for years because I think they kind of have this amalgamation of like 5 different equal caliber receivers, and every year they add one new one to it. This year it's Golden, who I like, don't get me wrong, but I don't necessarily like him more than Jaden Reed or Romeo Doubs. So you never know. It feels like every game it's a different guy. It's interesting to me just looking through the model's stance on this game. There are quite a few unders in the Packers passing game. Jordan Love under has a 3% edge for his passing yardage prop tonight. Tucker Kraft, the tight end, under has a 3% edge tonight, under. So I don't know. To me, I don't know if that's an indication here that the Packers are going to try and control this game on the ground. You would think that it is a competitive football game, one that even if there are some big plays, it could be, a tight game where both coaches are kind of trying to game manage situationally. So I think the more we talk through this, I'm kind of leaning some player unders tonight and possibly even looking at the total under as we get closer to game time.
Yep, great points as usual. Another thing that kind of sticks out to me is that Tucker Kraft, 42 receiving yards, one of the higher tight end projections output yards we have actually in week 1, aside from the best of the best. So maybe a sneaky guy there if you are looking for a tight end in fantasy because you just lost George Kittle, or like we mentioned in the other show, Brock Bowers is a little banged up. I'm sure he's starting, and if he's active, you're not going to sit him. But if Kraft is available, certainly worth a look if you're comfortable starting a tight end on Thursday night. All right, one more look in this game preview. I think we'll take a look at the touchdown probabilities. I'm going to zoom out here a bit so we can see a little bit more in one. TD probabilities in here are really cool. You'll find the top 5 for each team. So you're getting 10 touchdown probabilities, which is very substantial. You're getting half of each team's offense, if not more. Top 5 probabilities. So it'll be the highest, the most likely. and you can toggle between first and anytime touchdowns here. While looking at these first touchdown probabilities, I'm just going to bring up that they got the FanDuel touchdown jackpot tonight. It's you bet on a guy to score the first touchdown. If he scores first or last, you'll split your share of the, I believe it's a $2 million bonus bet pool. So I'll be looking at this tonight to try and find my pick. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Jaden Daniels. I like his top probability on the Commanders, so we've got a good chance there to get the first. And then if the Commanders are trailing in this game, I can envision a scenario where they drive down the field, scramble because Packers are playing tight defense, and Jaden Daniels skirts his way in for a touchdown, cashes the last TD, and if he gets both, you get double the bonus. So I'll be trying to find someone in here. I think I'm leaning towards the second-year quarterback in this one. And like we mentioned, a little anytime touchdown value on Austin Eckler in our props page. So, all right, let's move on to the game itself. Look at our best bet in this game. Take a look at the spread. This was 50-50. It's probably because it was 3.5 originally. At 3, we do like the Packers to cover at 52%. Commanders 48%. If you can get the Commanders somehow beyond plus money or beyond even money at plus 100, they would be a little play there to cover the -3 or the +3. But as far as going to our best bets, look at that. It's dead even. There is 0 edge. So it's a fair odds play. It's not a bad play by any means. Commanders as an underdog, 0.9% edge, basically fair odds at 39% probability and plus 162 on Caesars. And then the over, which is actually our strongest value in this game, 53.5% probability, 1.5% edge, minus 108 odds, pretty close to even money.
It shut me down. I was leaning the under. The model said not so fast, my friend.
Well, it's reasonable to want to lean in under, I think, on a Thursday night football quick turnaround. Last one was, it did go under, but it wasn't a quick turnaround. It was the first game of the season. I think the defense is probably usually hurting a little bit more on these quick turnarounds, which may favor the over here. But
especially think of that effect on Parsons too, right? Who was already on a snap count in week 1.
Yep.
I would think that the biggest piece of this new look Packers defense is probably on a limited role tonight as well.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, which could help skew this towards the over, could give Jaden Daniels a bit more scrambling room, which obviously is going to lead to quicker drives and more points. So the model says over 48.5. Personally, this is one I might just stay away from at 1.5%. It's telling us there's not a lot of value there. So it's a bet you're kind of making just to make it, I guess, unless you're just a strong believer in the over. But without a very confident edge, comfortable, probably just passing on this one, looking at props, playing our Thursday night football same game parlay, and keeping the primary game line straight wagers to Sunday.
Yep. Yeah. It's a beautiful part of NFL betting, right? You can find different ways to bet it. And if there isn't a sizable edge or if there isn't something you like enough on one area of the game, you'll take your talents and your hard-earned money to a same game parlay or to other ways to bet this. I'm with you. At minimum, I was leaning the under until we look closer into the edge with the over. That's enough, honestly, for me to just stay away. And this is something I use the model for all the time, right? If I'm kind of talking myself into a bet that it feels like, okay, I didn't see clear value here, but I leaned this way. Let's see what the model thinks. And then you go to the model and it says the other side. That's usually a good indication to stay away from me. 1.5% for an edge is definitely not all that noteworthy. It's a good little added boost if you're considering playing the over or staying on that side. But to me, there's nothing the model adores here. You don't see that fire emoji on any of these plays. It's more just leans on either way. So very interesting.
One real quick.
Yeah.
One thing I'll just add real quick regarding that 1.5% edge. You won't find this in our best bets pages on Dimers because we have a minimum 2.0% edge for a bet to appear in there. So that's just a little more insight for you. We say if it's under 2% edge, it's it just is a bet, make it or don't, but we're not going to tell you that there's value there or recommend it as a value play because it's such a slim difference.
Yeah.
We're not talking a long shot here. A 1.5% edge on a plus 1,200 first touchdown score is much different than a 1.5% edge on a game line at minus 108.
Yep, it's a good note. And then to my point on various other ways to bet it, if you go to the props page, there are 11 props for this game with higher than a 2% edge. So plenty of avenues to find value in this game, even though it doesn't show any on the spread or the total. By the way, I think I liked your Jaden Daniels shout. I think given all the talk that we had about the Washington running backs room and maybe the questions with who's available, who's not, what are the roles, Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's going to run the football. We know this. That's the only thing that's guaranteed about Washington. And as the model leans over, okay, now I'm thinking, how do we get there? I feel like Jaden Daniels is a pretty good bet, especially if Parsons is on a limited snap count. So I think that is my play that I have just talked myself into. I'm going to look for one of those every time we do one of these game preview conversations. And shout out to the model for helping me get there. Let's turn to our same game parlay here. Last week, we hit one of these last week, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we did 3 every primetime game, which we will have coming at you all season long, every primetime game. Maybe except for the double headers. I don't know if we're going to turn around two parlays on double header nights. Maybe we'll combine them or something. But yep. So we went 1 and 2. We missed Thursday night football. We cashed Sunday night football, and we came up short on Monday night by 9 Caleb Williams yards. They were driving at the end too, and then like 50 yards of penalties, they took it away. He had it. They went all the way down the field, but the penalties, too much holding on the defense, so they kind of sold us there. Caleb Williams didn't even sell us. It was the Vikings defense selling us.
Classic. But the nice thing about these two, even though we're saying we went 1 for 2 on the primetime games last week, or 1 and 2 on the primetime games, they're plus money enough, and you can play them with boosts that you hit 1 out of 3, you are extremely profitable. So the one we hit last week was, I believe, plus 525. And then the one that we are going to present to you for Thursday Night Football tonight with an odds boost up at Bet365, you can get all the way up to 9-1 odds. So with that, take it away, Dave. Tell us what we're betting tonight.
Yeah, cool. So let's pull this up. We touched on a lot of this already, just kind of speaking about it and scrolling through the same game or the game preview. So we're just going to kind of hit this pretty quickly here, talk about maybe what we like each of these legs a bit more. But Romeo Doubs, 40 receiving yards. Like I said, it didn't take much to lead the Packers wide receiver core versus the Lions. Jordan Love attempted just 22 passes, spread it out to 10 different guys. But Doubs did deliver with 2 catches for 68. He's a patented big play guy. He stretches the field. He makes contested catches. He hit this in 8 out of 13 regular season games last year. Caught a chunk play of 20-plus yards in all but one of those, which is actually what really does this for me. You can get this on 1 play. 2 catches is not a problem for him. We said he projects to lead this room with 46.5 receiving yards. Plenty of upside. Both Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson hit 40 yards, against the Commanders with a dreadfully bad Russell Wilson throwing the ball. So, give me Doubs 1 or 2 big plays, and we're there. Second leg, Debo, 50-plus receiving yards. We already talked about this. Debo made an instant impact with the Commanders in his debut. Hauled in 7 of 10 targets, 77 yards, 19-yard rushing TD. He was all over the place. Next 2 leading receivers were Curtis Samuel with 1 catch and Austin Eckler with 3 catches out of the backfield. It was all Debo in the receiving game. We project that bounce-back game for McLaurin with 59 yards, as we discussed earlier. But Debo's right behind him at 57.4. Making 50 a pretty nice target. Have some favorable odds for an alternate at minus 115 as well. And we close it out with our guy, Bill. I know we said that earlier we may be, watching and looking here, but we're playing the parlay with the boost, and we're going to take Bill for a touchdown. He is let me double check here on our latest probabilities as I still have this game preview up. He is our top 5 touchdown probability in this game. Like we said, Austin Eckler is questionable, so that will surely jump up if he doesn't play, if he's banged up and is playing minimal usage. Bill should have plenty of chances. 10 carries for 82 yards and a score, including that big run. We adjusted with him as the RB1. We saw that with his yards projection of 44 over Eckler. 33.9% TD probability when we put this together. I think that was plus 180 odds for that single prop at Bet365, which gave us a little bit of value once you factor in the boost. And this quick turnaround, like we said, might just have the defense a bit gassed. Michael Parsons, who's notoriously not great at stopping the run, and this rookie showed us enough spark to ride with him in week 2. Plus 725 at Bet365. You bet it there. It comes with a boost already at plus 900. If you go into the Commanders versus Packers game on Bet365, you will see this sitting right there for you to bet.
Love it. Yeah, that one hit some elements that, we touched on just player by player already, but I feel like Debo is the Washington receiver I want to back in this game. Romeo Doubs is a guy that literally can do this in one play. You're never out of it, right? If he has 0 receiving yards going into the fourth quarter, he's such a deep ball threat that he can cash it late. And Krosky Merritt, if there is a back, you're going to back. I think Krosky Merritt is the guy to do so with. So I'm in 9-1 with the boost. I think that's fantastic value. And let's lock it in. Let's start our week off with a bang on Thursday night football. There are plenty more games in week 2 of the NFL season than just this one, but this is obviously the one we needed to lead with today on the Thursday episode of this show. However, let's look elsewhere because our best bets from week 1 went 4-0 on the podcast. We had a fantastic week, and I would love to do that again, Dave. So where are we looking for week 2?
Yeah, I would. So we're going to follow a similar strategy there. We highlighted our best edge, our top probability, and when we looked at the Thursday night game, we talked about our best bet in there, which we were both on as far as the under in that game. We'll do the same thing today. We'll look at our best edge, top probability, and then I'll pull up a TD prop that I like as well. Well, actually, you're going to see it right here if you're watching, but that's okay. So we'll start off with the best edge. That's going to be the Buccaneers plus 2.5 on the road versus the Texans. This is our top spread probability of the whole week, which we talked about on Tuesday's episode in our little pick'ems highlight. Game came down to the wire versus the Falcons in week 1. Maybe not as convincing of an offense that we thought the Bucs would be to start the season. And their defense certainly isn't that of the Rams, but this Texans team mustered just 9 points and 0 touchdowns in week 1. 2.5 feels wrong to me for the Bucs. I understand it's a game on the road. It's kind of a pretty standard line for closely matched teams when one is on the road. But it doesn't really feel right to me. I think this should be a lot closer to a pick 'em. Honestly, the Bucs looked the much better team. The Texans not even scoring a touchdown. It's pretty concerning. At least enough to me to give them a full field goal advantage here. And, if we're overreacting to a single sample size, I'd probably lean towards our model's spread picks after the 11-5 outing in week 1. So this is really nice to me. 58.2% probability over a 7% edge. Looks to be just about even money, minus 102 on FanDuel. So this is a really strong lean from the model, high value, good probability. I'm definitely taking this one and hoping I might even take the Bucs on the money line as well, personally. See what the model says about that.
Dave, I think we should. I think if there's one team the sportsbooks are off on early this season or maybe don't know how to evaluate, it is Tampa. Even look at that Bucky Irving prop, right? 60% probability he's getting plus money to score a touchdown. They're using him like a bell cow. He really didn't even break any crazy big plays, but he still found the end zone in week 1. I'm with you. I also think just this is something I've long felt with the way books work with line setting for NFL. If two teams are in the same bucket of caliber and the team on the road is under a field goal of an underdog, right? The Bucs are plus 2.5 here. To me, if they were sizable underdogs or if it was even a team that you felt had any sort of disadvantage compared to the Texans, they'd be catching a field goal or more. It's just not crazy to give them that. So to me, this tells me suspiciously Tampa is either as good or maybe better than Houston. That's what my gut says. My eyes say. It's a theory I've long held with the way NFL lines work. And to see that be such a big edge after the way week 1 went down, I'm not surprised at all. I'll be with you on Tampa money line.
Beautiful. Love to be aligned with my co-host and the Dimers model. Pretty good place to be. So let's check out our top probability here. If you're watching, you can already see this, and you may have already scrambled to put it in. But Eagles money line versus the Chiefs. It's exciting to have not just value, but a definitive edge in this game. This is a matchup of Titans. These guys were in the Super Bowl last year, rematch of Super Bowl licks. A game no one really expected to go the way it did, but maybe couldn't be totally surprised about considering the Chiefs' black magic usage all season long and how they were squirreling their way out of close losses all year. This is at almost 60% probability at minus 110 odds. Also comes with a high value signal like all three of these bets in here, and another strong edge at 7.3%. 60% on a money line for a game that is projected pretty close is substantial. Like we saw that the Packers are just 52% tonight. And that's another closely projected game that I think everyone would say the Packers look better than the Chiefs in week 1. The Commanders look better as an opponent, I think, for the Packers, and yet they're getting less of a money line probability than the Eagles are here against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are still without their top receiver with Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy probably not playing in this game. He's questionable, but he's got a dislocated shoulder, projected for 0 fantasy points if you're checking your app. So I can't imagine he's playing this week. If he does, is he going to be effective? I don't know. This is practically a pick 'em on some books with the spread. Feels wrong after what we saw in week 1. Tough place to play in Arrowhead, of course. But the Eagles are going to have Jalen Carter back from his time served suspension in game 1. Chiefs backfield did not look good at all. I think they're going to have trouble moving the ball against what everyone would call a superior team. So minus 110, I think the Eagles should probably be closer to like minus 130, minus 135, which is what the model says. This is another one that I am all in right here. And it pains me to back the Eagles, but as a Cowboys fan, but I will, because I like to make money alongside watching the Cowboys play. So
I'll tail with you. I think there's a Mahomes tax here. We know the public loves to bet the Chiefs. I think there's the public revenge narrative of let's get them back from Super Bowl. But sometimes you got to look at what's in front of you. The Chiefs have no receivers right now. I'd be stunned if Worthy plays in this game. The Eagles have so many weapons that A.J. Brown caught one ball in week 1. It's just a different room full of skill guys right now. I think this is crazy value as well. I'm happy to do this. I do have one question for you, though. If Jalen Carter spits on Patrick Mahomes again, what is that going to do to the live probability?
If Jalen Carter, if there's another spitting, well, first of all, I'll need to see all angles, and I'll need to confirm that Patrick Mahomes did not spit in the general direction or on the ground, perhaps, of Jalen Carter. But if he does, I'm just going to bet Jalen Carter for a comeback player of the year next year, because he's probably going to miss the whole season if he spits on a guy 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, can we get Carter like 120 to 1 to be ejected for spitting in back-to-back games? Because there might be an edge.
Yeah, the books tell you, more markets available by request. So maybe we can call up and get a dimer special here. Jalen Carter to spit, and we'll set the line ourselves. Yeah, and just another one real quick. Like you said, the revenge narrative in this game, people think the Chiefs are going to get one back. Like, I would be terrified if I were the Chiefs in this game. You got blown out in the Super Bowl. You don't have your best team. The Eagles are so much better than you. They're healthy. They have Saquon Barkley, and they're going to come into this game like on cloud 9. Like, we punked these dudes in the Super Bowl, and now we get them. Like, they're going to make one big tackle and just like, stand over them. And I would be terrified if I were the Chiefs. So, Yep, I'm all in here.
I'm 100% with you. All right, and then our top touchdown prop. I spoke to it
Yep.
briefly. I'm already on board. It was already on the card, but give us the outline for Bucky here.
Yeah, cool. So you could see Bucky Irving score a touchdown, plus money, 105 on Bet365, 60% probability. This is like way off, 11.2% edge. Both the anytime TD edges that we talked about on Tuesday's episode, the Zach Charbonnet and Michael Penix, which resulted in the plus 4,400 TD parlay cashing, both over a 10% edge, plus money, big edge, tutty threat. Give it to me.
Yep.
Give it to me.
Yep. Simple as that. All right. We're probably going to have Bucky in a variety of ways this week. That's a huge edge. I mean, to see a double digit edge, even from the model, is not usual. So anytime I see something higher than 10, I'm all over it. And Bucky Irving to score qualifies. Storylines. NFL week 2. There's plenty to choose from at this point beyond just our top plays that we have added to the card here. Let's jump around and what are you keeping an eye on just from a storyline perspective this week?
Yeah, so I know I feel like we keep talking about Bucky Irving, but I had this in my notes well before Sunday's games were even over as something I wanted to talk about this week. So we'll just look at it. He had a quiet outing for a guy who entered the season with plenty of hype. He was like a 15th round fantasy pick last year, went or undrafted, broke out, was a stud, went around the 1-2 turn in leagues this year. Rushed 14 times for 37 yards, brought in 4 targets and a touchdown, 13.7 PPR points. It's not bad, but we'd really like to see that type of volume, those touches go for more yards. Well, if you're waiting for that, it looks pretty good this week. The model has him for 81 rushing, 3 receptions for 18 receiving yards versus the Texans, who allowed 66 and a touchdown to Kyren Williams in week 1. We talked about the value on Bucky. We like the Bucks to win. Yeah, I think Bucky Irving bounces back this week and puts a smile on most fantasy managers' faces and everyone who backs him to score.
Yep. I'm very aligned. I'm going to jump in with my key storyline. And again, it's my heartstrings talking. We're already to it. It's the Ben Johnson revenge game. The Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, 2 teams sitting at 0-1. Nobody wants to be 4th in the division after 2 weeks, but this game is in Detroit. Ben Johnson's homecoming. I'm sure the schedule makers knew that when they put this together. I honestly thought the Bears looked good enough through 3 quarters. I thought that was a weird game with a weird end result that was not necessarily indicative of how either of those 2 teams played for the bulk of the game. I still am skeptical of Detroit. I think there is some divisional value, as we talked about earlier in the show, but I need to see this team move the ball on the ground again. That was such a big part of what they did under Ben Johnson and under John Morton. They just had no push whatsoever in week 1. I think the Bears are a defense that can get pressure at minimum, and I think there's a chance this is a low-scoring game from both sides, even though people would love to see offensive fireworks. So I'll be keeping an eye. I feel like it's too early to call it an elimination game, but it would be sirens blaring for the Detroit Lions if they are 0-2 and lose the big revenge game at home to their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, especially if the Packers win tonight and the Vikings win on Sunday. 0-2. Yep, the division race is a pure record-based result, and losing 2 games right away in the NFL is very, very tough to come back from.
Yep.
All right, I'll take my next one. DK Metcalf revenge game versus Seahawks. Another week, another revenge game. I feel like there's a bit of 6 degrees of separation with this one from the week 1 one with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Now we got Sam Darnold, Jets connection traveling over to Seattle, and here we got DK Metcalf. This time, it's maybe a bit more revengey as Metcalf was traded rather than going over on his own. So it's not just like facing your former team after you mutually moved on. The Seahawks decided we don't want you anymore, and we're shipping you off to Pittsburgh, which at the time was to catch passes from Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. I don't know. I think those were one and done. So I don't know. Kenny Pickett was Mason Rudolph, I think. Yes, Mason Rudolph, I think, was QB1 before the Aaron Rodgers signing. So DK had a pretty DK stat line, 4 of 7 targets for 83 yards, big catch at 31, no touchdowns. Steelers were very pass heavy in a competitive game. Seahawks gave up over 270 passing yards to Brock Purdy, who didn't even have Kittle for half of it. Uh, 69 receiving yards and a 35.4% touchdown probability for DK from the Dimers model in week 2. I'm going to touch on this real quick at the end of the show, but I think DK gets a really nice spot here.
Hey, okay, Dave. I saw the eyes perk up a little bit for Dave here on DK. I love to see that glimmer in the eyes. Yeah, DK, I never know what to do with DK because it feels like he should be the league's best receiver. Like, why is he not this physical specimen? And I do wonder how much of his career turbulence has just been due to quarterback situation. So, he might, as crazy as it sounds, suddenly be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with, even though it's 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers. And I thought that kind of showed up as true in week 1. He looked poppier than he has in a couple of years. So I'm listening. I'm all ears if you want to make the case for him. For my final storyline here, I'm looking at the Giants because the guy that used to throw passes to DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, he's not still as good as Aaron Rodgers looks, in my opinion, in his old age. I think Russ is pretty washed up at this point. He was 17 for 37, only 168 yards in week 1. And man, I get it. The Giants don't have the world's greatest supporting cast, but Malik Neighbors should be blossoming into this all-pro receiver that we all believe he is. And it just didn't look that way in week 1. Now, behind Russ, you've got this rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart. We don't know what he is either, but he looked pretty awesome in the preseason. And if you listen to the press conferences from this Giants coaching staff, nobody wants to commit to Russell Wilson. No one will just flatly say, this is our quarterback. I think the room can feel that. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on exactly what happens with New York this week. Neighbors projections for us, 71 yards and a 37% probability for an anytime touchdown. I'm just going to watch it. I'm going to watch what happens. And oddly enough, if they do make the pivot to Dart, I think we could see a rather large jump from Malik Neighbors later on in the season.
Yep, for sure. I think everybody with Malik Neighbors investments, whether in fantasy, fandom, betting, would very much like to see Jackson Dart under center instead of Russell Wilson. I did make myself one little note here. This is like kind of sicko stuff, but Jalen Hurts did like made mincemeat out of the Cowboys running around. They could not. I don't know if they had no spy on him or their spy was going full CIA and couldn't be found, but Hurts ran all over him. So I don't know. Do we get a vintage Russell Wilson scramble spot? We only project him for 12.6 yards. I don't know if there's a plus money line at like 20, I might tease like a little couple alternates here, just on the rare chance that he flashes some of the old stuff against a team that could not contain the quarterback last week.
Yeah, well, and just like I said earlier in the show, sometimes with a low line like that, it only takes one. And one scramble that breaks away a little bit. Russ might cash that in. All right, reminder, you can get all of these insights we're talking about with our player props and projections in our projections hub or individual game predictions for every single game in the NFL. Make sure you subscribe to Dimers Pro, folks. 50% off a Dimers Pro football season pass. Promo code football will take care of you for the entire season. You are not going to want to miss it out. Go to dimers.com/subscription to take advantage. It's time finally for basically my favorite way to bet football, and Dimers is at the heart of it all. It is the first touchdown round robin. 3 times is what we cashed in week 1. Basically, out of the 5 round robin legs, we hit 3 of them. That's a massive profit. We were very happy with our results in week 1. So Dave, take us away for for week 2.
Yes. Okay. Everyone, please do your mental drum rolls here as I pull up the graphic. Symbol crash. There we go. All right. Let me hide this bad boy. So we'll run through this real quick. These are our top 5 first touchdown probabilities of week 2. Nothing more to it. Just the top 5. With exception that Josh Jacobs is not on here because he plays tonight. He was the 3rd or 4th highest in the projections, but we're not going to carry a first touchdown round robin for 2 days. So Derrick Henry first, 19% probability plus 290 odds, gets the Browns. Derrick Henry did all of his work outside the red zone in week 1, but he ran 18 times for almost 170 yards. He's King Henry. I believe he historically has dominated the Browns, or at least last year in their 2 division games. So he's unsurprisingly our top guy here. Next is Kyron Williams of the Rams versus the Titans at 17%, plus 320 odds. He had 4 red zone touches and a score, which was the first score in the game, cashing us on that ×3 last week. The Titans stink. Yeah, Kyron Williams here to score first makes sense. Christian McCaffrey, 49ers versus the Saints. He gets a 16% probability. There are no odds for him right now. The DraftKings did not have this game up on the books, probably because of the Purdy stuff, but they'll get up there eventually. So, yeah, I mean, if you find better odds somewhere else, go for it and don't wait. But McCaffrey had 10 red zone touches, no score in week 1, but 32 combined rushes and targets in that game. Brock Purdy is out. They are going to lean on Christian McCaffrey. I think Mac Jones will be starting, so expect him to be a workhorse, to get his looks, and possibly break a huge run against a pretty pitiful-looking Saints team. Fourth, we got Jonathan Taylor of the Colts versus the Broncos. Jonathan Taylor has a 16% probability, did not score in week 1, vultured by Daniel Jones twice, but he had 7 red zone touches. It was not for lack of trying. They got close. They gave him the ball. He got stuffed. Daniel Jones ran it in. Not going to overthink this one and stick with our guy who is top 4 to score the first touchdown. And finally, James Conner. We will go back to Conner, who also scored for us in week 1 versus the Panthers this time. 15% probability, 3 red zone touches, scored on a pass, and you can get him at plus 425 odds. Last week, all 5 of these guys scored an anytime touchdown. Some food for thought for you as maybe a side wager, playing this as an anytime TD 5-leg parlay. But for the first touchdown round robin, here's what we got. Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and James Conner.
Love it.
Real quick. Yep. Sorry, Greg.
No, you're good. I love it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. You're good. Real quick, I just want to explain how we stake our round robins. Just for anyone who we talked about the scale of these a bit, I believe previously we talked about ladders, but sometimes wagering advice is important to include here. So based on what we would consider a $33 total wager, and you should adjust this based on what you can afford to bet and what you are willing to lose. You put $2 on the combinations of ×2. That will give you 10 combos. You put $1 on the ×3. That's another 10. You put 50 cents on the ×4. That's 5 combos. And you put $1 on the 5-leg parlay, which of course is just one combination. If you only hit 2 of these, you will cash the 2-leg parlay of the 2 that hit. If we hit 3 of these, you will cash that 3-leg parlay plus the multiple combinations of ×2 contained within that 3-leg parlay. And that goes on all the way up the board, compounding the profits the more you hit. And ideally, if we hit just 2, our lowest odds, we can break even, which is pretty much what we target when we plan this stake and select our players.
Thank you for that. I love the round robins. It's my favorite way to bet. It's just a fun thing to sit back when you get rolling like we did in week 1 and you're hitting a couple of the first ones. You dream of this upside of cashing all 5 and having the greatest ticket in betting history. I would say, look, there are weeks that we go 0 for 5. I'm not saying that's going to happen this week. There are weeks that we've gone 5 for 5 with these round robins. It just is such an enjoyable way to bet it. And if you're betting it responsibly, which we always encourage, you're not putting 10 units on this, right? No. Literally break this up the same way you would bet one singular bet elsewhere. Take one total unit, spread it across the different legs of this, sit back, relax, and enjoy. There's not many better ways to bet football. Quickly for you, what I was going to rudely interrupt you on and try and ask about. So McCaffrey's odds aren't available. There's quote unquote injury concerns. That's part of this, right? I think we all expect him to play. Like, he's on record saying he's going to play. But for anyone out there, if McCaffrey odds remain unavailable for whatever reason, do you have any ideas on how else we could get a fifth name here?
Yeah, simply fire up the projections hub on site, which is where these come from. You scroll all the way over to the right. You click on first TD. And you'll sort everybody by first TD probability. And I mean, make your pick. If you want to just go with the next guy up, then you can go with the next guy up. It's probably going to be like a Bijan Robinson. That he's not in the top 5 was actually a little surprising to me this week. But, these are going to be very matchup based week to week. So a guy who gets 20% one week could very well have 12, 13% the next, even if he's a stud like Bijan. And make your pick. If you want to go for a longer odds guy, it's not crazy to mix in one guy. If he hits in one of your combos, then you're looking real nice.
Yep. Yeah.
But
and honestly, we lay it out as nicely as we can for you, make it easy just with our picks in the graphic. But I mean, man, once you start to bet some of these and you get a feel for it, you can use the hub yourself to find values that you are really seeing an edge in and put your own round robins together. I mentioned on episode 1, I believe last week, the first touchdown one is electric. You get the biggest names in the sport if you bet it that way. You also can just do anytime touchdown, but you got to go way down the list. You're not going to get Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey level players to score anytime and be able to get the same value out of the way we put these round robins together. But especially early in the season, sometimes you can jump on a rookie receiver or running back sometimes, and our model will certainly show edges in players of that caliber from the plus 300 down to 5-1 range. So various ways you can put your own round robins together. Encourage you to try it out. You'll probably enjoy it as much as we do, but let's hope for success. Back-to-back weeks with some hits on our first touchdown round robin would be a great way to kick off this NFL season. It's not just NFL in football season that gets us going. It is also college football season. Week 3 of the college football slate is here. There's great games all day Saturday, but even some Thursday and Friday night games as well. Reminder that with Dimers Pro, we've got projections for all of these sports, and college football works very similarly to what we demoed for you today from the NFL. You can click into all of those games and get similar predictions, projections, all of those things to help you find edges in college football. I consider myself a little bit of a college sports maniac. This is definitely where my heartstrings lie in general as a sports fan. So it was a pleasure to me to find out last night when I was preparing for this episode that my 4 personal favorite bets of the week that are already on my card are also 4 of the model's best bets for this week in college football. It's awesome when that happens. So I'll take you through these quickly here, and you can go find many more college football bets on the best bets page in the Dimers website with Dimers Pro. Florida plus 7.5 at LSU is my top one. It's also the model's top one. 57.9% probability here, 5.5% edge. You think about the spot in this game, Florida coming off an embarrassing home loss to South Florida. They can say whatever they want, but their head coach is not safe if they do not compete in this game. I think this is straight up a compete for your job game for Billy Napier. They still have DJ Lagway, who is the most talented quarterback in the country. He's still figuring out how to be a winning quarterback, but I think this team is going to show up motivated, feeling like they're playing for everything, quite frankly, against an LSU team that I think is a little overpriced in the market. Dimer certainly agrees. They had a statement win early already. I just would be surprised if this game is not competitive late. And if you're catching over a touchdown, that's a very key football number. I'm with the model on this one. Moving down the list here, Indiana State, Indiana is something I think only college football freaks are going to pay close attention to. However, there's some big time value here at the over 59.5, 58% probability here, just under a 5.5% edge. You go through these two teams, what they've done this season. Indiana had a clunky season opener, but they hung 56 points on Kennesaw State in week 2. I think their quarterback Mendoza, who's the projected number 1 pick in the draft per some 2026 mock drafts, I think he's found his footing a little bit in this offense. On the flip side, Indiana State is obviously not a Power 5 team, but they're 2-0 on the season, averaging 39 points per game. They've scored 38 points or more in both of their contests thus far. To me, this is a game Indiana's going to score as much as they want to. And even if they take some of their starters out of this game, it's probably only going to leave them vulnerable on the defensive side. If we get 2 scores from Indiana State, which I think is more than reasonable, they have some firepower, big play potential. Indiana should take care of the rest of this line and firmly push this over. I'll be really quick on the other two. California plus 2.5 against Minnesota. 54% probability, 4% edge. This is a late night game. You're getting a home underdog. One of my favorite sayings in sports betting: home dogs are not dogs. They are wolves. They are dangerous. Cal's got an incredible quarterback. I mean, he's a top 5 arm talent in the sport. He's a true freshman. And I think he's going to be the biggest name in the transfer portal next year. This is one of the last times I think we're going to be able to bet him wherever he's playing football at plus money at home against a relatively mediocre Minnesota team. I'll gladly scoop up that. And lastly, maybe storylines wise, the most interesting game to watch in week 3. Tulane against Duke. Tulane is the home team here. Duke stole Tulane's quarterback last season. Darian Mensah was a total stud. He's probably a future NFL guy as well. He transferred to Duke. Probably did not assume he would be going back to play Tulane in week 3. Duke looked awful against Illinois last year, got ran out of the building. They were 3-point underdogs at home. They ended up losing by 30 plus. Just a team that made a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, sloppy football. I think Tulane, who also got a quarterback of their own, they took Jake Retzlaff from BYU. He's a big-time winner, won 10 games in the Big 12 last season. Tulane's going to be a rocking environment. They're a football team that already beat a Big Ten opponent in Northwestern by 20 points back in week 1. I'm going to have a hard time not backing the crazy home crowd to lift Tulane to a victory. 54% probability of that happening, 2.5% edge per the model. Any thoughts on all our college football values here, Dave?
Greg, you are the college football guru in this space, so I will simply say I love what I hear, and I will be on these, particularly the two with a high value signal and over a 57% probability from the model.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And yeah, to be clear, it won't be every week that my 4 favorites are also Dimer favorites, but when it is, I'm going to be betting them. I can promise you that. All right. Let's want to give out a favorite play here. You've got a touchdown parlay to discuss, I believe.
Yeah, I got something here. I kind of thought about this a little bit after talking about the rookies on the first episode, scoring, coming up one short with Travis Hunter being victimized by Trevor Lawrence. But this week, I'm going to go with 3 wide receivers who did not score in week 1, and I don't think they'll stay out of the end zone for very long. Give me Jamar Chase versus the Jags at minus 140. A.J. Brown against the Chiefs, who just gave up a pair to Quentin Johnson at plus 170. And DK Metcalf at plus 140 in his revenge spot. You'll get this 3-leg TD parlay for plus 1010 odds on DraftKings. I don't know why I said it like that. Plus 1010 plus without. It's a weird odds. Plus 1010 odds on DraftKings. All 3 are over 35% per the model. Like I said, I don't think they'll stay out of the end zone long. These guys are alphas of the game. Give me all 3, and I'm going to see if I can find a little boost to put on that and get a little extra juice.
Love it. 10-1. We'll take it. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for listening. Anybody who's made it just over an hour here into episode 2 of the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast this week. We hope you're enjoying this. We plan to do this all of football season, 2 episodes a week. And it's a lot of fun when we're cashing in some of these tickets. We did last week. We plan to do it again this week. So thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch us if you want the video versions of this to make sure you're seeing all of the visuals of the model itself. Make sure you watch us on the Dimers YouTube channel. Dave, can you please tell us why the people listening to this should join Dimers Platinum?
Certainly. It's the final day of the WNBA regular season today. So if you are listening to this tomorrow, you are too late, but you can get the last 4 games of the regular season today. A few bad teams playing, a bunch of teams playing who don't need anything. So it could be some interesting spots there, maybe some sneaky value. Don't forget that our golf predictions do update after every round. So while we touched on the tournament on Tuesday's episode, you will find post round 1, 2, and 3 predictions updated to reflect the current standings and outlooks for each golfer, with some new value spots if we find them as well. So check that after every round. Can't plug the projections hub enough. Touchdowns, props, fantasy points. That's where you want to be before all your NFL Sundays. And yeah, I think I'll say good luck throughout the weekend. Make sure to head to dimers.com for our latest updates and all our best betting value before NFL Sunday. As always, gamble responsibly, and Greg and I will see you on Tuesday.